It always comes to this. More nice shit. Well there guys, back into another tattoo progress update today. Where I last left off, I had showed off the arm here, this one, and the bit in my ditch, and then where are we here? We did this this arm here on the bend of my elbow slash ditch, and they are just about to start peeling. I can see that it's got that kind of dry, dusty look to it. Whenever you see that, it means you're pretty much through the main part of the healing, which is the early part, where everything sheds off, and then after that you see kind of the color that you've got underneath, or the black, or whatever the case, the black and gray that's actually there versus what's sitting on the top layer. Everything that's goes that kind of crusty or dusty layer on is just the top layer of color. And usually it's fairly thin, but sometimes it can be pretty thick too. In the case of heavy color saturation, if you get really bad scabs and stuff like that, you can have pretty thick shedding, but this is all going to be really thin in here. And when it's thin, generally that will mean that the color is mostly inside the skin, deeper in, rather than sitting on the skin. I've seen both. I've been doing this a long time, getting tattooed a long time. I've seen all different types of peeling, all different types of healing. And I find that when you get the best result is usually when it's a thinner peel, because it's less of the deeper layers and more of the surface layer that's peeling. It's hard to say exactly why that is, but it seems to be the case anecdotally that the deeper the scabbing goes, the more the ink comes out with it, so, or shedding. I don't actually really ever have thick scabbing though. I used to get it sometimes. Part of that is working with different artists and stuff. Now the artists I work with pretty well know my skin, or otherwise very efficient at putting color in, and so you don't get that result as often. But I've worked with artists of all different skill levels, and I find that I had the most flaking and shedding and scabbing with artists that weren't as proficient at tattooing in general. So I would say that that is typically the case in times where you're working with someone who doesn't know the skin very well yet. But that's just my anecdotal experience. I know there are people who have thicker and thinner scabbing just generally anyway. Some of that is our body types and our probably some of our genetics, and everyone's skin is a little bit different, is what I'm trying to say. So I've meandered on that point long enough. This is healing incredibly easily, as always. This being session 101. We have a pretty colorful sleeve here, and obviously there's still more to do yet. We'll be coming back into this area here next week. I believe we'll be doing these tentacles back here. They're pretty bright, but we have to get them to the same kind of color palette we have working throughout here. I think it would be a good idea at this point to get some more of this purpley pink stuff that we have here on one of these on the back, just to give a little bit more separation so it's not all completely the same tone. But we'll see what Rick's got cooked up. I do like the interaction of these tentacles back here, and I think that these suction cups are a nice light point. There are some real moments of genius in there, but still a lot of work to do. Whenever we get to the hand, there's a whole lot more work to do in there. So it's staying basically as it has been now for quite some time, but it is what it is. It still needs a lot of work. The moon, however, does not. That moon is now around 5 years old, and it hasn't changed at all. So that's just black and white on black. We did a red border around it at some point, but that is a very, very old white on black tattoo. When you consider that most people will tell you it can't even last a week. I just seen a comment from a guy right before I made this video who was told that white on black doesn't work by an artist that has white on black sleeve, a white on black line work sleeve that is apparently fairly striking. This artist wearing that sleeve told a prospective client, that you can't put white over black. When he asked her about it, she said that her arm was an exception because it was older blackout and this and that, and basically just coping, right? Just and pure denial, and just it's completely unexcusable ignorance at that point. And it's a real shame, especially in this industry today, where we have so many fucking artists starting this. Like, I've never seen more tattooers at any other point in time. And we have people turning away projects. And it's a real shame that those people have to come from thousands of miles away to see us here, so that our artists that were apprentices not long ago, and in some cases still are apprentices, can do the work that these experts are turning away. It's fucking ridiculous. These guys need a reality check or get into a different industry. I think it's absurd. Anyway, I've made my thoughts on that thoroughly known. I told that guy if she was in front of me, I would call her a moron. And there's no excuse for having that type of work yourself and telling someone that you can't do it. It's fucking insane. Like, it's one of those different rules for me than it is for you kinds of things, which is fucking absurd. How dare she? It's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard, and I would tell her that to her face, and maybe she needs to hear it. Anyway, had another session here today with Terry. Did all these dots. This is another thing that some old checked out artists will tell you will fall out, but this moon is very, very old. I had this moon done originally in like 2015 or 2016 or something. The outline of it and the outline of the drops in the center there. I've had people tell me this moon tattoo looks like a Crescent's logo, some band or something. I've never listened to that stuff. It's the same thing when people say that my torso looks like a Date or Remember. The only reason why I even know that band exists is because people make that connection. I've never heard that stuff. It's not my style. I'm more into European metals, progressive metal, death metal, doom metal, black metal, atmospheric black metal, funeral doom metal, that kind of shit. So it doesn't really, I have no connection to this otherwise. This is not a Crescent's moon. It's literally just a moon with some teardrops. And this, as far as I know, I've seen this symbol forever. And I've never seen it in relation to a band until I had it done. And some people say that it looks like their logo. So I think that's just another coincidence at that point. Yeah, this was a pretty easy session. I said that I thought it was going to be. People will be looking at this and they'll be like, there's no way that was an easy session. I think palm tattoos, much like armpits, much like nipples and some other places, are very, very overblown. I think this was even easier than my session on my arm this week with Rick. And honest to God, I could have fallen asleep through that session. Now, moment to moment, yeah, this might have been more painful, but look, man, like, it's stylistic choice, first off, that we didn't do these dots denser. I could have sat for denser dots, but I did not want to have the appearance of a attempted palm blackout. I've said for a long time on this channel that I had no interest in having anything similar to a palm blackout. I've seen many. I've seen them done in different ways. I've seen them mag shaded. I've seen them dotted in. I think that all dots is a better look than mag shade if you're only going to do it a few times. But either way, this will not all stay this well. And some of this you can't even see accurately because my hands are so dry, even though I moisturize every day, that they grab onto the ink like a drink and it gets stained immediately. And there are some parts of this tattoo that I honestly didn't even feel. I've talked for a while about having thick callus on my hands and fingers. And in those spots, it will be very, very lucky if anything stays, as that callus is very, very thick. Terry was driving down as hard as he could. But there were some spots that I actually had no feeling in. All through here, I have these calluses. You can see kind of up here too, on my, like the tops of my palms here. He was drilling down as hard as he could to try and get through that. But the fact that I had no feeling for most of that is indicative that there's a good chance it won't stay in there very well, but we'll see. With dots, you have your best chance because you're hitting down maximum depth every time, where when you press down with a mag, even if you push, the tissue, its thickness is going to be changing as you go, and there's just no way you can assure the same depth every single stroke of that mag. There just isn't. Not on a palm. And there are parts of this that are thicker and thinner than others. And again, more sensitivity in some spots than others. Honest to God, the only real part of this that sucked at all was this bend between the wrist and the palm. All that stuff's a little bit spicy in there in the joint. But the rest of it was pretty chill. And yeah, I really like the way we did this intentional broken up design. We'll be doing the same thing on this hand here probably next month or the following month. I've got these paced out in a way that will ensure that everything here is healed up. And we could have probably done both today, but it's a little hard to bend still. I think by the end of tomorrow I'll have all of the movement in my hand back, but I didn't want to completely debilitate myself to the point where I can't drive or do basic functions. So it's always better to do these things at one at a time. Whole session took between an hour and a half to 2 hours, and I never really got. Sometimes with palm tattoos, I get a lot of adrenaline, and it's almost like you just snorted cocaine or something. Now, I've never done that, but it's the only thing I can compare that to. Would be like a really, really huge rush, you know? So, yeah, I've been told that's what it's like. I'm pretty straight-laced. You should know this by now. I'll have maybe a little mushroom every now and then, but that's about as far as I go. So I didn't really get that kick of adrenaline. I think it's probably because it never got to that place where it was super, super painful. But usually what I like about palm tattoo sessions is you do get that crazy adrenaline rush. Didn't really get that this time. But if this stays anything like this now, this is probably going to be as far as I go with it. I don't really want it any denser than this. I don't want the intention to look like I was trying to get a blackout palm, but it didn't work. I have seen that. I've seen people dot in their palms, and then they never went back for a second pass, and they tried to do a blackout type thing, and it just looks messy. People will be like, yeah, what are you talking about? That looks messy now. Yeah, it's because there's ink stained in there, you fucking moron. It's the same thing when I had my eyelids tattooed, and people said, oh, it looks like you're wearing makeup all the time. No, that's bruising, you fucking moron. You donkey. Those things are just temporary casualties of war. If you can't get past 2 weeks of dry ink in your hand or bruising from a eyelid tattoo session, I don't recommend doing any tattoos ever, because like if you can't handle potential little hiccups like that, you're not ready to take on having a tattoo full time, and it's absolutely laughable. I have one more session coming up here this week with Ashlyn. We're going to be doing another guy on my right calf. She did the Nosferatu on my left calf, so it's fitting that she does the right calf. This won't be healed by then, but this will be. This is going to be shedding tonight/tomorrow morning. So by the time I do that video, I'll have this to show off how this healed. Hopefully it'll do well. I have a lot of confidence in this part. Not quite as much over here because this has been a bitch the whole way. I don't expect the palms to be peeled for weeks, literally weeks. However, I will be able to do workouts and stuff like that within a few days. I find the top layer of the palm, it seems to heal fairly quickly to a place where you can live normally with it. I used to always think that a palm tattoo would be fairly debilitating, but I actually find with them is that you're back to normal within a few days, but the actual shed doesn't happen for weeks. And that's been the case every time. This was the 7th time I've worked on my palms in general. This is the most we've done in the session, and it was probably the easiest session. So if you're thinking about getting a palm tattoo, but you're discouraged by the healing or the actual pain, I don't think that either are that bad. And in fact, I find that the tops of the fingers are way worse heal. With that said, Terry and I are going to, at some point this year, we're going to dot in the tops of the fingers as well, and try and match it up with more, they'll be denser dots, but they'll be dense to less dense as we come out towards the palm. And that's going to be my my finish for the fingers finally. I'm done with mags on fingers. I think mags can only get in so good into a finger. There's too many divots. They're too dry. They get too swollen. It's very hard to see what you're doing for very long. And then the healed result on the 5th pass for my fingers will be hopefully better. I just think that we've done what we're going to do with a mag on my fingers, and there's not much more point in fucking around with that. It's incredibly painful to get your fingers blacked out. That's much worse than palm blackout or palm tattoos, in my opinion. Much, and the healing is way worse too. When you mag over your fingers, you really can't use them for days. It's just that's been the case every time, no matter who's done them. I've had them done by 3 different artists, Lee, Rick, and Terry, and I can never use my fingers for days. So hopefully with palms, or with dots, there'll be less trauma than the mag, and maybe I'll be able to bend my fingers a little quicker. And hopefully, because it's less trauma, the work will heal better and denser and darker. Even if it's more textured like the dots, I actually think that'll be a cool look anyway. So, yeah. All right, well, I'll be talking to you guys here again in a few days after my next session with Ashlyn, my 3rd session this week. And then again, 3 days after that, I'll be having a session with Rick again. So, lots to look forward to. All right, I'll talk to you guys again soon. Have a great day.